you know, they'd be able to handle it, that there are actually these Bigfoot. Now the whole, I think, idea behind it all is that John Green and Renee DeHaden were out there before looking for him because someone, Bob, whatever his name was, Titus, had spotted them and called them out there. They were all working for, at the time, supposedly, they were all working for, what's his name, the Texas businessman that had all kinds of money and was financing these trips to, I guess they went to find the Yeti at first and couldn't do that, and then they were in the Pacific Northwest, supposedly where they were reported being seen around this logging area that what the hell is his name? Okay. Anyways, they were all financed by this guy from Texas, and they had been out there and with a tracking dog, the killer dog because they said it was a killer dog, and somebody called it a killer dog, and it was one dog, and supposedly the Bigfoots must have been afraid of this one dog, which supposedly they kill 6 or 7 at a time, you know, but this one killer dog, they were afraid of this, you know. And anyways, I don't understand why they, you know, if in fact there was a group of Bigfoot and they were tracking him with a dog, that the Bigfoots just didn't kill the dog, the killer dog. The killer dog was something special killer dog. I've run into people making these videos. Anyways, what the hell was the businessman, the Texas businessman's name? It was a funky name. Anyways, they're out there. I guess they didn't find any. They had the tracks. Green and DeHaden flew back to Canada or something, and the next day the guy called them and told them, "What you're looking for is here." And so they were flying back out. Now, in all this time, he had talked to Roger and Bob, and I think he said they were being financed by this guy too. Now, could have been they were all being financed to make a Bigfoot movie, you know, as a hoax, but we don't know that either. But supposedly, it was a big cover-up because the logging companies didn't want people to know about the Bigfoot, and they wouldn't be able to log anymore, or they wouldn't have access to these areas if there was some type of endangered human species. And now a lot of the cover-up had to do with proving that it was an ape and not a person. They supposedly shot 4 or 5 of them. And, you know, from what I understand, the way he's talking about it is that Gimlin actually shot Patty, or, you know, there was a big cover-up and they figured out it was more human than gorilla-like. And then supposedly John Green wrote his books and did all this work that John did to try and prove that it was an ape creature and that it wasn't really human, so it was okay to kill them because they were ape-like. Now, and Ivan Sanderson was involved somehow. I think he was employed by the same person. Now, Ivan Sanderson supposedly worked for the CIA at one point, and we don't know if that wasn't just a giant cover-up. Getting lost. Must be Bigfoot infrasound. So, It must be because I keep losing my train of thought. Ivan Sanderson, and then supposedly Renee DeHaden worked for the Canadian government for 20 years in the forestry industry as a forestry officer, but they didn't exactly, he kind of infers that or implies that Renee DeHaden worked for the Canadian government to cover up the fact that Bigfoot existed, and he would go out to all these sightings and stuff, supposedly to cover it up or make it look like they weren't real. Talks about that they were both Canadian citizens and Canadian people, and the lumber company was supposedly from Canada or owned by Canadians, and it was all a cover-up to keep the logging industry going. That by finding this primate or this subhuman, they'd have to stop all the logging, which, doesn't make sense to me. It seems like you'd spend more money trying to cover it up than you would if you just worked around it, if it was in fact real. Now, I can't understand why. So to show you that. That right there is one of them balloons, I think, that they put a little heater in it, it flies around like a UFO. That was not there just a couple days ago, and I haven't seen any flying around. So there's a lot of things that just don't make sense, and to me the whole conspiracy theory is, that people always try and put forth that the government is hiding it because they're afraid that that the national forest is a giant industry where they make tons of money, and if people knew that Bigfoot existed, they wouldn't go camping anymore, which is, I think, totally bullshit, because I think you'd have more people out camping if they knew Bigfoot was real. And they certainly wouldn't stop going camping. Now, and then to fake Bigfoot attacks by saying it was a bear, there would be more people that wouldn't go camping because of the bears than Bigfoot. I think you'd get more people in the national forest if Bigfoot was real. But anyways, back to the logging industry and the Canadian supposedly. Why, if in fact they didn't want people to know about this whole thing, why would they release a short piece of film and let people, see this? Why would they allow Roger to take the film and take it, and go on tour with it and show people this, knowing where the film was filmed, knowing it was right near all the logging business? And if they're trying to cover this up, why would they give Roger the film? Why would they just let him take the film and go on tour with it? That doesn't make sense. If there's this big conspiracy behind it all, that they in fact had shot something that they thought was human afterwards, so they tried to cover it up. They shot 5 or 6 of them. And the 5 or 6 is always funny to me, because you would fucking know if you shot 5 of them, or you shot 6 of them, or you shot 1 of them. You would remember exactly how many. Anyways, now, if you definitely had shot one and you were trying to prove it to the world, you wouldn't take a film of one and then just take it around and say, oh, here's one we shot prancing through the woods.